welcome to another edition of the Throwing Bagels Podcast. Hello, Kevin Mooney here with you alongside Jason Hamo. Hello, Jason.
Hello there, Kevin. How are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
Oh, it's Monday. Let me tell you,
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
Monday.
Yes, we record on Mondays, and it's always sometimes it turns out to really be a Monday. And before we go any further, Chris, our other co-host, Chris Douglas, is on a last minute special assignment. So he'll be back. Don't worry. So joining us now on the Throwing Bagels podcast, he's a program and project manager at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Recently became a dredging program manager with the Army Corps of Engineers, and he was SUNY Oswego alum, double major. Busy guy in business administration and economics. It's our pleasure to welcome in Lex Barker. Hey, Lex.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's absolutely our pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. First off, Lex, we're going to talk about some of the projects you've been working on, and much of it entails the breakwater along the Oswego Harbor, just right off stone's throw away from the SUNY Oswego campus. So I guess before we get into the nitty gritty, like Lex, what is a breakwater exactly, and how substantial is the one in Oswego Harbor?
Yeah, so the breakwaters are for navigation, for safe navigation. I don't know if you've ever seen, Oswego gets some heavy high winds, right? And needs protection there for the navigation channel. And breakwaters are stone structures. They consist way back of timber pilings underneath, way underneath. And then over time, as storms have progressed and become more intense, we've had to provide, greater protection. So right now, what the Oswego West Arrowhead next to the West Pierhead Light, what it has is stronger protection, consists of bedding stone on the lakeside with smaller type stone, and then an underlayer stone that's a little bit larger, and then armor stone on top of that, which can go anywhere from 16 to 20 plus tons of stone. So very heavy.
I can imagine. And is that where that's where the lighthouse is off of the harbor? Is
Yes.
it off the breakwater?
Yep, right off the breakwater, and we actually completed the protection to the foundation of that a couple years ago, which is great. And this year they're finishing up the rest of it in August, which is awesome.
So is it like a jetty almost like coming out?
So jetties typically are standalone.
Okay.
But so yeah, breakwaters typically connected.
Okay.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest projects of note is fixing up the West Arrowhead breakwater, which is wrapping up this year, right? So how critical is this project in relation to the local and national economy?
Yeah, it's amazing. We actually have economists at work. I didn't go that route, but we have economists that do harbor analysis and tens, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, in local revenue and jobs. The Port of Oswego, all those numbers are on a fact sheet that we have. So there's so many harbors that we have, don't recall offhand, but very big impact to the local, regional, and national economy.
Right, because a lot of cargo moves through there, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yep. Lots of variety. So
Mhm. And I just offhand, I happen to catch this article online about how people have done all the tours, like the cruises across to Alaska, the cruises to the Caribbean, but cruises across the Great Lakes are actually picking up in popularity. I mean, is that something that you would need to plan for, when it comes to the breakwater, when it comes to Oswego Harbor?
yeah, that's all a factor. We
Hmm.
actually have done and plan to do. We're starting an appraisal in Rochester Harbor. Our economists will do a review to see the economic benefits of it, and obviously the structures out there, and it supports the harbor and the benefits that it brings in, and they'll do benefit to cost ratio on what that would mean, for the area to bring something like that in for tourism.
That you know what, that's a great point, because I don't think, I think a lot of the ports are Michigan, out Lake Superior, like, they're not, I don't think there are any ports to speak of in Lake Ontario. So maybe that Rochester, would that be the first one?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm. Hey, that sounds good to me. I get to drive to Rochester for a cruise, right? Instead of having to go to New York City or somewhere else.
Where would you actually go though?
Just across the
Like
Great
where
Lakes.
just circle around?
Yeah, why not? You would go to Canada too. Like they go up to Canada and then they come down to the
Right.
US. So yeah, it's so that no, that sounds like, pretty promising. If the harbor, Lake Ontario, if they can start accommodating that, that sounds pretty good to me. And Lex, you mentioned the West Arrowhead breakwater project. That's again should be wrapping up shortly. But then another project is going to kick off, and that's the involving repairs to the outer west breakwater just off the harbor. So, what's involved with that initiative?
Yep. Yep. So we have another project manager that works on that. But what they do is an assessment on the most degraded areas to repair. And they're actually put out a contract, and they'll be out there as soon as the West Arrowhead is done. They'll continue, same contractor,
Wow.
continue on to repair that. And it's been great to have the Port of Oswego as a partner. And I'll note that the stone that we get is really awesome granite stone. We get it from Vermont, a quarry in Vermont. They also do gravestones. Some families had some gravestones from there, and the connection. I'm like, oh well, we get gravestones and we get our armor stone from the same place. But great quarry. They do it by train, which is great
Mm.
because the port has the train that goes right there, and they have a large like Fitzgibbon site on the east side where they're able to store it, on the other side of Fort Ontario there. So great connection. And yeah, so the Outer West will start, and then they actually should get additional funding here soon as well to go forward with more contracts for that and the East Arrowhead as well. And yep, and then the detached breakwater, if you look out just past the lighthouse, that was completed almost 10 years ago. And that used what's called dolos, which is if you ever seen jacks, the kids game playing jacks, except for these aren't the little ones; these are very very large. uh, and that was completed, and that was a result of Superstorm Sandy coming through.
Mm.
We were able to get some funding for that and complete that. So a lot of activity there in the harbor, and very excited to continue on as the dredging program manager, dredging every few years or so, depending on shoaling in the federal channel. So very, very good connection. So looking forward to continuing a connection, to Oswego.
So, speaking of your connection, right? Did you ever think that you would be involved with projects that would basically take place, that would take you basically to the backyard of SUNY Oswego?
No, definitely did not. But yeah, part of the journey was being fortunate out of college to have an internship through an alumnus at Environmental Protection Agency in DC at headquarters. So I did that, and then I stayed on for a few years. And while DC is great as a single guy in your 20s, thinking longer term, right? I started looking for federal jobs back home. I'm originally from Rochester on the east side. And so I was, looking at Rochester, Syracuse, and Buffalo, and was very, very fortunate to find Buffalo, in the Army Corps of Engineers in August of 2006. So coming up on 19 years there. So, but yeah, I never thought that I would do that. I actually came with the Army Corps of Engineers as a program analyst. So I did mainly budgeting and scheduling. And then I saw that there's interdisciplinary positions that have some engineers, community planners, biologists, and they had an economist in there. And I didn't think that I would be using my economics degree. And when I saw the announcement come out, I said, that might be interesting longer term. So I actually did a lateral, the same grade, over to our project management section. I was there for about 7 years, and I've been a project manager for about 8 years now. And then just recently in the dredging program manager position. So very excited. It's awesome. Definitely love it. I love the connection to Oswego. I love some day trips, and I get to go to the Oswego sub shop, get a
Nice.
cheeseburger sub.
Nice.
I get Oswego in August, hopefully for the completion event out there. So I'm looking forward to it again. I get to, show my coworkers Oswego and a little bit of the history there and everything. So it's
It's
very exciting.
better than February,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Come out in the summer.
right? Exactly. Don't show people Oswego in February. They're not going to want to see it that much.
So, Lex, so you mentioned, as we mentioned off the top, you're with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Now, does that mean everyone in the Army Corps of Engineers is in the military, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so the Army Corps of Engineers is under the Department of Defense, under the Department of Army, but is overwhelmingly civilian employees, Army civilian employees. But we also have military leadership. We have generals and colonels, majors. We also have captains that work as project managers with us as well. And it's a unique dynamic in the workplace, and I've absolutely loved it. Over my 19 years, I've had family in the Navy, in the Army, in the Marines, and Coast Guard, so pretty much all branches. And we actually have some currently serving, in the role of, uh, just doing drills, once a month, in the reserves and things like that. So it's really, really great and something that I really, really enjoy.
Are the people that are kind of higher up more military,
Yes.
or okay? So the higher ups in the Army Corps of Engineers are are in the military, and like then it works its way down to more civilian levels, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And also would you say like most people are engineers? Like majority, how many people like are people are actual engineers versus not being an engineer?
Yeah, we have mostly civil engineers, and we also have environmental engineers. My wife works for the Army Corps of Engineers, chemical undergrad and environmental grad out of University of Buffalo. And yeah, and then from there we have a lot of biologists too. We actually have a regulatory mission as well. And then like environmental analysis, we have to go through reviews on everything we do for our projects,
Mm.
coordination with all of the state agencies, New York, like New York State, DC, Department of State.
Are there any significant differences in military project management versus civilian project management?
Yeah, so we have a whole MilCon program that our district doesn't get involved in. New York district does, and folks like Louisville, they have a whole military construction program.
Mm.
Just a different way, different things that they do, on military bases and sites. Construction, a lot of vertical construction, in that world. So.
As the dredging program manager for the region, what other projects are you involved with? Where else do you go, across? Is it the Northeast for you, or is it mostly upstate New York?
So what we cover at the Buffalo District is the lower Great Lakes, Lake Ontario
Mhm.
and Lake Erie. So we go from Toledo up to Messina, essentially. So most of the harbors, there's some private harbors, but the overwhelming majority are harbors that we maintain the federal channel.
So I have a question. I'm going to skip back to this whole cruise thing for a second because I'm very curious. This is very interesting to me now. Now I'm very interested in it because now I'm curious. Like, where would these boats go? Like, would they go like so from Lake Ontario? Would they go like through the Niagara River to Lake Erie or like up the St. Lawrence River into Canada? Like, how would they are the because my question really is like, are the rivers big enough to carry a cruise ship? Right? Like,
Yeah. So they would go through if they went from Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, they would go through the Welland Canal.
okay,
Yep. Yeah. Niagara River, Niagara Falls, a little bit challenging. So,
gotcha.
yeah, that's one thing. And that's one thing, just speaking about the Great Lakes. I remember when I first came to the Army Corps of Engineers, we had the TV on at lunch and they were talking about how each lake, like Lake Superior, and it all goes down into Lake Ontario and then out to St. Lawrence. And it kind of makes sense. Elevation change
Mm.
and all that is just very unique. Something that I obviously didn't know about, but I'm like, I grew up along the Great Lakes. It would have been cool to know that, but I had to work at the Army Corps of Engineers and watch a show at lunch, National Geographic. So, but there's cruises. Erie, Pennsylvania has one, and I think Cleveland and maybe some others as well. So, but it's definitely something on the radar. I believe in Buffalo as well, that they've
Interesting.
been looking at. So,
It's very
Uh,
fascinating.
so there's an article in the Tribune News Service. They spoke about the increase in cruise across the Great Lakes, and so it's a 10% increase from last year to this year. They're expecting to have more than 22,000 passengers aboard all kinds of Great Lakes cruises through the year. And these are smaller ships, though, Jason. They're not like these massive, ships
Right.
that patrol the Pacific or whatever. So these are smaller ships, but I don't think you can get one of those massive
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
ships
kind of
through
what I was
there.
thinking. I was like, I don't feel
No,
like they would fit going through those rivers and canals and
right.
stuff like that. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
not
mean,
like a Disney cruise out of Port Canaveral or Fort
yeah,
Lauderdale or
exactly.
Right.
Miami, but it's a cruise nonetheless and local,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Lex, you mentioned before that an alum had helped get you an internship at the EPA. So were you looking at the EPA, or how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, it's a great story, and a unique one. You just never know where connections will happen. And so I had a business advisor, and I was just looking for anything, any internship experience, and tried some through it was experience-based education, and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I was talking to my advisor, and it happened to be this alum's ex-sister-in-law in the room next door that overheard, some frustration, and so brought me in not too long after that to, hey, my ex-brother-in-law works at EPA. He's getting ready to retire. He'd like to bring some Oswego grads. He grew up in Oswego, and he went to Rochester at the Simon School of Business, was a political appointee in the late 70s, and then became an EPA employee in the early 80s. And of course, when I graduated in 2003, he was, towards the end of the career. So it was me and a couple other guys, same age. We went down there for an internship in the administrator's office. So it was an awesome experience. So being in a room, many Ivy League, educated interns around me and well-known private schools. And it was great being able to explain. There are three guys from Oswego. So we had some looks left and right, like how did three guys get internships here? So yeah.
So, what led to your interest in business and economics, and how did basically SUNY Oswego wind up on your radar when you were looking for colleges? Obviously, you're not working in business and economics now, just like Kevin and I are not working in broadcasting anymore. But
Yeah. Yep. So I was looking for a school that was somewhat close to home. And Oswego was about an hour away. And we would
Mhm.
actually visit there. My mom's boyfriend had a boat in Rochester, and they'd be on Port Bay, and we'd go up to Oswego, and you could see the campus from the lake. So it always had my eye as like a teenager. And so in high school, I was part of Future Business Leaders America, and also just took the business courses. My mom was in business world, and so had a connection that way. And so ended up at Oswego. Part of the reason too was that they had reinvigorated the cross country. Well, they had cross country. They reinvigorated the indoor and outdoor track teams. So I was
Mm.
looking for that as well to be able to continue on career I started in high school, and I wanted to do it to that level, Division 3 versus say, Division 2 or Division 1, which is much more involved. Wanted to have some balance, so
Mm.
that's what drew me to Oswego. Was it was an hour away, it wasn't that far. I had seen the campus and it looked nice, and then obviously, so I started out in business, and I had some credits from high school, and the advisor said, well, you take economics as a lot of your general education. So if you took like 3 or 4 more economics courses, you'd be able to finish a 4-year career. And I said, well, that would be nice because I'd like to finish off the entire, athletic career. So
Hmm.
that's how I did economics, because the professors were, pretty cool, and they had some really good classes. And I'm like, sure, I'll continue. So yeah, no thought that I'd actually use it. I mean, I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't,
Mhm.
I wasn't full speed on it or anything. So, and then, yeah, just found the internship, and, I did a little bit of accounting. I actually went back and got some additional semester hours. When I was at EPA, I was in the Superfund accounting branch, and the goal was there to be a CPA, certified public accountant,
Mhm.
and be the expert witness after all of the cleanups, to go out to court cases, to do that. But as I got into my mid 20s, my mind shifted and said, well, maybe before I get too far along, maybe some federal appointment, back home, just to feel it out. And that was the path I ended up taking. So
Mhm.
So you didn't really, business was like a means to an end, really. It wasn't really something that you were overly interested in doing, or at least economics wise, it wasn't overly something you were overly interested in doing. But what was like your main interest? Like what was your thought process? Like what you really thought about doing before you kind of just landed at the EPA and moved that way?
yeah, I just did business administration. So it was everything. I
Mhm.
knew about the accounting program is awesome. I've had friends go through that and do the CPA route, and have great success through that. And I was doing okay in the accounting classes, but I just liked the variety of business administration. So
Hmm.
when I got out, it was a few potential possibilities. I actually had Price Chopper as a possibility. I made it to like the end of that to be like kind of a general manager, but I was already
Mhm.
on my path with EPA by that time. I had some connections with financial firms as well, and thought that that would be a possibility as well, maybe be a certified financial planner. But it just, the internship stuck, and I loved living in DC, and I was fortunate to, be able to stay on there full time. And, it was a good gig, and went that route.
So what and while you were a student at Oswego, what were some of the things you did there that really helped prepare you for the career that you've had?
Yeah, yeah. I fully invested myself. Obviously, I did the cross country and track, which
Mhm.
was quite a lifestyle. Just every day, right? It's one of those things you got to keep at it, right? So pretty much every day. Obviously on the weekends we would go to meets and
Mhm.
all that. But I did a little bit outside of there. I did the Student Athlete Advisory Council, and then also did Student Athlete Mentors. That helped me to grow. So, as I got into my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was able to mentor, the freshmen and sophomores throughout the early days of college, which can be
Mhm.
challenging. I didn't have a ton of experience. One of the typical first to go to college. I had an uncle that went to college, but he was out of state, so didn't know him that well. But most, immediate family didn't go, so it was a little bit challenging. But just doing that helped, and that's actually carried on as well. I've been part
Mhm.
of our mentorship program at work, leading that as well, and being a mentor to new employees. So uh, that those couple of things really, really helped. Um, get outside my comfort zone a little bit, and talk to other athletes and see how things are going and learn from them.
I think a lot of us, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I know some people kind of take that student athlete, the athlete part, they take it for granted. They see them run a track or they skate on the ice and they think, oh, this they make, it must be nice just working, suiting up for a game like, 3 hours a night or on a Friday and a Saturday. But there's a lot more to it behind the scenes, isn't there, Lex?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there
Yeah.
were times where we'd be out in the morning, during cross country season, just trying to always improve.
Mhm.
Uh, so a lot of time spent there, and So the Oswego winners allowed us to do a little bit of cross training. We'd play some basketball because, going,
Yeah.
can't really put on ice skates and go out for a run. So
Where
it's
did
icy
you
out or the snow.
where did you guys train? Like did you run run around trails in the area, or did you run on the streets? Like where did you guys train?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was able to do and get involved in is be the student athlete representative on kind of the president's council. And there was a male and female representative. And so at Oswego, cross country was easy. There were trails around the middle school, and we would go out on the roads, and that was good. A couple of times in the onion fields, not a good choice. Out on the west side of the campus. That was a bit muddy, but in indoor, we actually used the basketball gym when we could. And then we would cross train in the pool a little bit. And one of the things, as they were developing and preparing for the new hockey arena, which is awesome, one of the things was what to do with Romney Fieldhouse. And I was able to have a voice there to keep it. We need indoor facilities here, right? And so now they actually have an indoor track over there, which is awesome. They were able to keep it and renovate it. And, and the outdoor track, we would use that a little bit. And sometimes we'd go down to the high school. So, and that was just the running piece of it. Field events, it's kind of, they would use Romney a little bit when they could, depending, if you're doing like weight throws and shot put and things like that. Like high jump, they'd be, in the gym, and we'd have to make sure we'd, share the space. So, the facilities are in pretty good shape now. And it was very nice to be a part of that, right? The early stages of it to, have that voice as a leader, and an athlete. So,
what options were on the table when it came to Romney at that point?
So obviously that was mainly hockey, right? Now, obviously they use it, I believe, for tennis and things like that. So, my understanding was, they were just looking for options on what to do, right?
Okay.
What should it be for? And I said for every sport that needs it, because it's great. I'm so glad that hockey's right on campus there. I had cold days trying to go over to hockey games when I could, when we get back from 8 or 10 hours on a Saturday, at an indoor track meet, we try to make it over there as much as we could, and support basketball and everything like that. So, very glad that they've been able to, and now they have great turf fields too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome to see that. That's great. So they're in really, really good shape, and have a great balanced, good sports program. So,
Do you still do a lot of running?
no, I did a little bit after college, but then just kind of, got away from it for a bit. But I'm still pretty active, hiking and biking a little bit. My son's involved in scouts, and so we do a lot. I've done some 10 and 12-hour hikes with some of the scouts, like down in Gettysburg and the Adirondacks. So I still get out, but not the distance stuff. So I was more mid-distance, half mile. I just did cross country, basically stay in shape for track. I never got into the longer distance or any marathoning or anything. So
Gotcha. So one thing we like to ask all of our guests, when they come on that were obviously our Oswego alums, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, is the food, right? We all love the food at Oswego. So, living on campus, we liked our favorites was the chicken patty, right? Off campus. What did you like to eat, whether on campus or off campus?
yeah, I no doubt remember the chicken patty. I got to say, it took a week or two to get used to it, though.
Why is that?
In the fall and the spring, just it's different. Being able to stomach it. So, but it was ultimately really good food. Always enjoyed going. Actually, speaking of balance, I lived in Riggs my freshman year, and then I went to Hart Hall, stayed with a teammate, and then we went over to the suites over there on what was new campus. I don't know what they call it now, but over there. And then I actually lived off campus as well. But yeah, obviously sub shop and going out to Rudy's and Bev's, because that's, right there, which is awesome. So those were the main ones, right?
Yeah, I think those are all the big ones, right? And then
I mean, you had Wade's on the east side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff, man. And I gotta tell you, I wound up on campus doing like an informal tour for a family friend. Their son was looking at colleges. So I was like, hey, how about Oswego? And so we went up there and the Cooper Dining Hall was open and I'm like, let's do it. So I went in and they had the buffalo chicken patty. I'm like, sign me up. So I did. It was a real blast from the past. So that
They do
was fun.
buffalo chicken patties now?
Yeah, they do all kinds of stuff now.
Really? Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat that, but that's beside the point.
That's right. You have a sensitive palate.
I do have a
That's
sensitive palate.
well, Lex, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This was great, and we hope to keep in touch. And we are really all the best to you in your position at the Army Corps of Engineers as a dredging program manager. And I think the good news out of all this is that you'll be popping over to Oswego quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely plan to. I'll definitely get up there. So as often as I possibly can
Very cool. Oh, but during the summer, yeah, we
during the summer.
recommend. Okay. And that was a project and program manager at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Recently became the dredging program manager, a fellow SUNY Oswego alum, Lex Barker. And that was, it's great to hear stories like, where you're working, you wind up going to Oswego, and
Mhm.
then you're doing important work in Oswego, like
Yeah.
right in your alma mater's backyard. That's pretty cool.
It's very coincidental. You know what I mean? I don't think
Yeah.
it was, he didn't have plans to try to do that kind of work like over there. It just kind of works out. He moves back up north and he ends up doing some work that brings him to Oswego. So it's pretty cool.
Definitely. And it was interesting to learn a little bit more about the Army Corps of Engineers that really
Mhm.
it's a lot of civilians
Yeah.
that work in there.
Yeah. I didn't even really think about it as like the Army Corps of Engineer being majority civilians. Like I just kind of,
Mhm.
you hear Army Corps of Engineer, you figure most of the people are in the army, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and then as far as like this the breakwater, like it's pretty crazy like how it's built and like he was telling us with the quarry, the rocks that they bring from the quarry, like the
Yeah.
place in Vermont, and it's tons and tons of rock that they have to like travel by train.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
But so as we speak, it is a Monday, and the NBA season just wrapped up with Oklahoma City defeating the Indiana Pacers, our favorite team, right, Jason?
I hate the Indiana Pacers. Despise
uh,
them.
beating them in 7 games. And what's interesting is that there was talk because how Ty Halliburton with the Pacers had a calf injury a couple days
Mhm.
before that. And some former athletes said, if you have a calf injury, do not play
Right.
because you may tear your Achilles. And Halliburton said, I don't care, I'm playing. And guess
Yeah.
what?
Towards Achilles.
Tore his Achilles in the
You
first
know,
few minutes, right?
yeah, you know what it is? It's weird because if obviously if it was a regular season game, he wouldn't have played, right?
Mhm.
If it's game two of the finals, probably wouldn't have played. You know what I mean? But it's game seven, and he's like, it's do or die. Like we win, we win everything. We lose everything. So it's kind of like I get it. I understand why he wanted to play, but at the same time, it's kind of like one of those things like, are you helping or hurting your team, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know if that's actually gonna, you know, the calf string could cause you to tear your Achilles. But obviously it did, and he did tear his Achilles, and now he's gonna miss literally probably the whole next season.
Yeah.
He probably won't be back until I don't even think he'll be back. I don't think he'll play at all next year, to be quite honest with you, because if from what I've heard, it's basically a year comeback recovery, right? So unless they make the NBA finals, he's probably not coming back, you know.
And he wasn't the only, NBA, a superstar to tear his. That's the weird part, is that there were
Yeah.
3 players, all
Mhm.
important to their respective teams, that tore their Achilles in this postseason alone. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Damian Lillard did it with the Bucks. Jason Tatum obviously when they were playing the Knicks, so everyone knows we all know about that, And then you got Halliburton. And the funniest thing is about this whole thing, it's just a weird coincidence, but they all wear the number 0.
Yeah,
Like it's
that's
almost
weird.
like it's a obviously it doesn't mean anything, but it's just a funny, coincidence that just so happens that they all wear the number 0. I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to be like, there's got to be some conspiracy theory about this somewhere, but it's an interesting but needless tidbit.
I think we specialize in that on this
I'm
show.
very good at the useless information.
But yeah, it's some athletes are like they want their number, right? So
Yeah. I also think this whole thing with there's been so many more of these injuries lately in the last few years. There's got to be something going on with like the way these guys train, in the
mhm.
off season that's causing these injuries. What else could it be? Because how often you never used to have Achilles injuries like this. It's happening more and more often lately. So
Is it
it,
is it the sneak? Is it the shoes, the sneakers? Is it because they're wearing a lot of low tops?
yeah,
Back earlier they used to wear high
high
tops, were
tops. Yeah,
pretty common in
yeah.
basketball,
I never thought
and
about that.
you weren't tearing your Achilles in a high top because there was support there.
Right. It's
Yeah,
interesting. I never thought about that.
yeah, but it's like the Achilles in the NBA has become the elbow ligament in baseball, where
Well, it's funny. It's like
it just goes.
I was always for me personally, like playing basketball growing up, everyone wore high tops because more so for your ankles than anything
Yeah.
else. You didn't wear low tops because it was easier. If you had the high top sneakers and you tied them tight, it helped your ankles out, so you didn't roll your ankles really. That's what we were always told, like why you wear high tops. So it's very funny like that they wear low tops now, and it's really not many ankle injuries. I mean, Jalen Brunson does it all the time for some reason, but everyone else, I don't really see that many other ones. But I guess like
Mhm.
it's a strong possibility. You never know.
That's right. You never know. All right, I think that'll do it for this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. We look forward to having Chris back in the fold on our next episode. You can check us out online, throwingbagels.com. Our social media channels are all up on the top there of our website. You name it, we're there. Facebook, LinkedIn, X. Where else are we? YouTube. Yeah, we got YouTube.
Instagram,
So Instagram, that's right. Good point.
Threads.
Threads.
We are
We're,
literally
dude,
everywhere.
we're all over the place. You can email us, by the way, throwingbagelspodcast@gmail.com. And we do read them and we do reply. We do respond to you on all of our channels, not just not
Yep.
just email. So well, keep in touch and we'll see you next time. Jason, farewell.
Kevin. Bye.